Did y'all hear Trump is paying $7K to turn an immigrant in?
If I'm lying, I'm dying.
Maria, you gotta go, Maria. Trump looking for you.
No, I mean, no.
Tell them to bring me my money.
January 22nd, 2025, the DeSoto County DA announces bounty hunter program for undocumented immigrants. The Mississippi Illegal Alien Certified Bounty Hunter Program, House Bill 1484, is aimed at addressing and expediting the deportation of undocumented immigrants in line with Trump administration immigration policies, according to press release from the DeSoto County District Attorney Office. So this next 4 years is going to be very wild.
A terrifying ordeal for a caseworker who helps refugees from Afghanistan get resettled into Michigan. Investigators in Oakland County say he was attacked in his own home in Orion Township Wednesday.
Well, it's terrible. I mean, obviously the person is trying to do their job, which is to help that person assimilate, and for whatever reason, this is the reaction he got.
Sheriff Mike Bouchard says a refugee helped by the caseworker somehow tracked down the caseworker's home address on Red Root Road, showed up, and stabbed them repeatedly, putting the victim in the hospital in critical condition.
We don't know specifically what his complaint was or his motive was, because the individual that was attacked is in surgery as we speak. He was stabbed multiple times.
And that is why I'm not surprised certain people are going to call for that $7,000, because if you have a criminal record, you're on the radar. Nothing to see here, ladies and gentlemen, just another new fire that just exploded, expanded, and they're trying to contain it again. I hope they can find water.
He's very compliant. He does have a pistol on him, so
where's your pistol at? On my side. Okay. So the hands on top of the vehicle for him. I appreciate that, me and Bird. Oh yeah. Oh shit. You okay? Put the gun down. Put it down. You okay? Nope.
I'm not going to call you a DEI hire, but how can you remove a gun from the pants of another person and put your finger accidentally on the trigger and pull it? That's how people get called DEI hire. That's a wild way to go, man. He was compliant.
Got my gender changed on my driver's license in the free fucking state of Florida. My God, Ron DeSantis would be screaming right now if he knew about this. This little license now says female on it. It doesn't. Oh.
I can't show you because then you would know way too much about me, but it says female.
This was the last step in changing all of my documents.
This was not easy. You're not even supposed to be able to do this in this state.
Here's the loophole. Here's the loophole. Listen up.
If you're replacing your driver's license, not renewing it, but replacing it because you lost it, they have to take all of your information from what they consider a primary document. A passport is considered a primary document, and you can self-identify on your passport, which means, loophole, you can self-identify on your Florida fucking driver's license. So my passport says female, and I showed it to them, and they made a bunch of copies, and they had a whole fucking team meeting in the back. I shit you not, there were 8 people that were like looking at it, looking at me, looking back, and I swear I was like, I just felt like I was gonna cry. It's so humiliating sometimes to be in a hostile state. Like, if you live in a hostile state, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know how possible it is to do this in every other red state. I don't know the loopholes everywhere else as well as I know them here. Then on the way out of the DMV, a guy rolled down the window of his Ford F-250 and yelled, "Nice dick," at me. So, you know, good things don't last forever, but that license is gonna last 10 years. I am wishing all trans people a positive and easy get your documents in order December. And Ron DeSantis, you can suck my trans.
Florida canceled trans activist idea over gender change, says it will launch an inquiry. Well, some people got it secretly. You boasted about it and you ruined it for everybody. All I'm saying, if you find a loophole, hey, do your thing. Just don't snitch. Just give hints. That's enough.
If someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. Without being found guilty of a crime, they will be rounded up.
The fact that you said Elon Musk did the Nazi salute but not your allies, I don't believe any word coming from your mouth because you're obfuscating again.
This afternoon, NBC 10 saw multiple unmarked SUVs here. 5 people, some wearing vests that said police federal agents on the back, went inside one of the apartment buildings. 2 agents waited outside, 1 person taken into custody that we saw. Whether this is connected to President Trump's effort to root out illegal immigrants, something he has promised to do, is unknown. We also saw federal agents at a building on Lexington Street, also here in East Boston. A witness there told us she saw 1 person arrested. There's roughly 11 million undocumented people around the country. President Trump has said the priority is finding and deporting those with criminal backgrounds.
So Trump is going after people with a criminal history. In other words, if you're an illegal person without a criminal history, you're kind of safe, just like in Spain.
It will separate families. It would lead again to continued discrimination. It's shameful that my colleagues are giving in to racist fear-mongering at the first opportunity to pass legislation to scapegoat our immigrant neighbors and fuel hate in our communities. I know what's going to happen. It won't just be undocumented. It'll be people like my mother who will get stopped and profiled. She have to carry her U.S. passport around? Are we asking people now to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
The gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And it's so important to understand what you're going to turn our communities and our neighborhoods into. We can't allow that to continue to happen. With that, I yield.
I find it rather odd you want to normalize not having an ID, as if this will be more safe for the general population.
Look, for me, the Democratic Party should have a simple mission, which is to lower costs, lower crime rates, make government work for the people rather than for the interest groups. And we have to recognize that working class voters of color are largely in the center on issues like public safety and border security, and we have to meet them where they are. If we swing the pendulum too far to the left, we risk alienating working class people of color. And working class people of color are no different from most Americans. Most Americans want the basics, an affordable cost of living, safe streets, secure borders. And so we should be focused like a laser on delivering the basics and ignore the fashionable nonsense that has taken hold in our politics.
As you can see, Republican Richie Torres is like, yo man, I think you guys are going too much on the left. So left that many people feel that you don't care about them because you live in an ivory tower.
When you say swing too far to the left, what do you mean specifically?
Well, in the case of the 2024 election, it was immigration. As I've said repeatedly, I felt the president did too little, too late to secure the border, and we paid a heavy price in the 2024 election. For me, both inflation and immigration were the leading causes of Democratic defeat in 2024. And in the case of immigration, I felt like the Biden administration did make fatal miscalculations that cost us the election.
And what did Kamala Harris say about Biden's policies? I would have done nothing different because it's perfect. They keep doubling. They don't change their ways over time sometimes. And that's why they lost. They lost the popular vote.
Yeah, so I spoke to an activist who was advocating for abolishing the police. And I said, let me get this straight. You want to conduct a social experiment on the lowest income communities of color in places like the Bronx. And what happens if that experiment goes badly? What happens if it leads to an outbreak of gun violence and gang violence and youth violence? Like, you live in a wealthy white neighborhood in an ivory tower, insulated from the consequences of your utopianism, whereas my constituents are poor people of color who have to live with high costs and high crime rates. And we should be speaking to the lived experience of people of color. You know, when you consider some of the most utopian ideas in politics, whether it's abolishing prisons or abolishing the police or abolishing ICE, those ideas do not come from working class people from places like the Bronx. Those ideas typically come from activists and academics who are out of touch with working class people.
This guy is a democratic person that makes sense. Yes, he is right. The things that they care about doesn't reflect the poor people they're helping. 100%. because most of them live in a totally different lived experience, but they want to tell you how you should process your lived experience because they know that is racist. I was this guy back in the day, and actually, I would say the same thing right now. I'm still a right-winger.
CNN analyzed the proposed budgets of 20 federal agencies. HHS, for example, requested $113 million in its budget for training for diversity in the health workforce. And the Department of Defense asked for $50 million to fund DEI-related activities. That amount accounts for just 0.006% of the department's total budget request, according to a spokesperson. The Biden administration expanded DEI protections to a broader group of Americans, including women, rural communities, military spouses, and caregivers.
What diversity, equity, and inclusion programs do is open opportunities to qualified, deserving people who worked hard. It's not about dictating hiring decisions or filling quotas.
And Wolf, while we don't know exactly how many of these federal employees will be impacted by today's actions, what we can say is that the actions that we are seeing by the Trump administration here to roll back all DEI will certainly reverberate into communities throughout the country when you talk about taking away grants and policy programs that benefit many of these underserved communities. One other note on this issue of them asking for call-outs for people within these agencies who may have information on federal employees who may have been disguising certain DEI initiatives. We should note CNN reported just last week that there were federal employees within these agencies working to quietly edit job descriptions and policy descriptions because they feared this very day would come, Wolf.
So ATF is rebranding. Lisa was Chief Diversity Officer and now she is Senior Executive. In other words, a bunch of Republicans are playing Where is Waldo now, but they're playing Where is DEI.
Until 2015, in all these Western countries, there was this battle for gay rights and gay marriage. Every country pretty much in the West passed those laws. What happens with all these nonprofit organizations that were fighting for this? They don't close the doors and say, we won. Good job, everybody. We achieved our objective. They move on to the next objective. They have to keep donations flowing. They need to keep the doors open and keep everyone employed.
Remember when they said nonprofit just give people jobs and they try to maintain it?
And for the left, really when I say the left, I'm referring to the far left. What they want is perpetual revolution. They don't want a revolution. They want to exist in a constant state of revolution. And they're always looking to introduce the next concept and to normalize that. So when gay rights were won, the new objective for all of these nonprofits, and there are hundreds of millions of dollars we're talking about here pushing this, their new objective became trans rights. And they've been successful in conflating trans rights with gay rights.
I can understand we can help people in a specific way, but the social movement, the idea that I bend the knee and then you find something that I need to bend the knee again, then it becomes the normal and you don't feel nobody's bending the knee, so you create something to bend the knee again. I don't know. There comes a point I'm like, wait, you gotta stop. You gotta be happy with something, right? I mean, the amount of people that are LGBTQ, the percentage is super low. The fact that I see every movie with one, I don't know, it doesn't reflect my reality. Even my friends that are very LGBTQ that I know, they're like, why is everybody something? Like, what? And they cancel their own show. And I'm like, I'm not saying anything because whenever I say it, I'm the bad one. But when I'm not there, suddenly you realize, maybe he was right.
Don't get me wrong, ako sa kita bong puta fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turlo que ta verdeta welcome.